Good evening, everyone. My name is Gayatri. I'm the customer care specialist from BIM Technologies. First of all, I apologize for the inconvenience caused from our side. So, without further delay, would like to start the session. Okay. So, BIM Technologies is an Australian-based company, and then we are incorporated in 2017 as a technology-driven organization for offering solutions in the Bentley cutting-edge technology for various clients across the globe. As an organization, we, BIM Technologies, offer training, services, and software sales. We are a Bentley channel partner for both training and software sales. As a training channel partner, we provide training on these products like MicroStation, OpenRoad, Synchro, OpenRail Design, Plaxis, along with software sales. Along with the sales and training, we do provide services on MicroStation, OpenRoad, Synchro 4D, OpenRail Design, and Plaxis. We specialize in providing end-to-end BIM solutions for the construction and building assignments as one of the prominent BIM service provider. All our subject matter experts have an extensive global experience on a variety of structural projects such as residential buildings, commercial sector, educational building, industrial sector, as well as infrastructure. As a channel partner with Bentley, we have provided our services of training and BIM services to various engineering organizations across the globe. As a channel partner for both training and sales and services, we provide these are the products which we deal with, that is MicroStation, StatPro, OpenRoll, OpenRoad, Synchro, Plaxis, and OpenPlan Modeler. Today, after the webinar is over, you will be all getting a participation certificate from Bentley, which says that we have attended the particular webinar from BIM Technologies Australia. It is globally recognized. Now, regarding today's webinar, though I'm not a technical person, I'll give you a small brief about what exactly it is, and then our subject matter expert, Mr. Dhruv Mahajan, will be taking you over the complete tool, how it works, and how it can really help you in your career path. OpenRail Designer is one of the software application for all your metro, light rail, commuter trail, or high-speed rail design project needs. It saves time on the design and maintenance of track, station, and yard assets while significantly increasing the productivity. Today, BIM Technologies would like to bring an opportunity for future engineers to learn how to enhance rail projects using Bentley OpenRail Designer. OpenRail Designer enables you to easily export digital deliverables, including IFC, to support industry BIM workflows. The real capabilities of OpenRail Designer is it adds real-world digital context, streamline collaboration across teams, and visualize design. Today, our subject matter expert will show you how this will really help you in building up your career as well as your projects also. A small brief about our expert. Dhruv Mahajan is Master's in Civil Engineer and a Senior Engineer in Highway. He has an overall experience of 7 years in the AIC industry, specializing in linear civil infrastructure projects, including road and railway systems. With a solid economic foundation, experience includes facilitating clients' transitions to BIM-ready design environments through training and project implementation. He is proficient in collaborating with diverse stakeholders and skilled in civil design works, utilizing advanced tools such as Bentley OpenRail Designs and MicroStation and OpenRail to deliver accurate and efficient civil engineering solutions that meet project goals and industry standards. And is also a certified trainer from Bentley on the softwares. So without further delay, I request Dhruv to come and give us the complete presentation on the software OpenRail Design. And during the webinar, we have a small poll in between. So after 25 minutes or 30 minutes, Dhruv, if you can allow us to do the poll, we can do that. And in between, if at all you have any queries or anything, you can just leave it in the chat box. We will address all your queries after the webinar is over. Right. Dhruv, over to you. I'm just stopping sharing my screen.
Thank you, Gayatri. I hope my screen is visible, and then from there I can take it forward.
Sure. It is visible. You can continue.
All right. Hi, guys. Good afternoon. I'm Dhruv Mahajan. So today I'm going to introduce you to the Bentley OpenRail Designer. In this particular presentation, we will be covering few things. To begin with, we will be having a good idea about what is the latest product, OpenRail Designer, or what is the overall technology that we are coming across. The second thing that we will be looking at is what are the benefits of transitioning from legacy products. If you're using products like MX Rail or OpenRail Design, Bentley Rail, that's BRT and PRT, Power Rail Track. So if you have been using these products and then you want to transition to the OpenRail Designer, what are the different benefits that you come across? The next thing that we will be looking at is very quick understanding of working in workspace and workset. How do we set up a project? How it looks like? Then what are the different features of OpenRail Designer to understand the product and workflow for the design, and finally interoperability between different technologies. Now, before we go ahead, let's have a look at what we have at the current previous current Bentley solutions that people have been using until this point. And a lot of people, a lot of companies nowadays, they are transitioning to the latest one, right? So in present working scenario, what do we have is we have different stages, starting from planning design to conceptual design. We have detailed design, and then taking on forward to the IFC stage. Then things go on, right? Now at this point, we come across different product lines. We have Bentley Rail Track, we have overhead line for designing OHE, and then we have a different variety of softwares. Now at this point, what we are coming across is connected data environment, or where we have the ability to bring data from multiple products, which is either OpenRail Concept Station or OpenRail Designer. And then if you have a bridge model over there into such as you can bring that on OpenBridge Modeler, you have to do a proper design of the concrete. You have pro structures, you want to detail all that stuff. You are able to bring all your data onto one particular platform, onto connected data environment. So that's where we are doing that. So apart from it, there are certain pain points that we come across for now. Yes. So there are definitely certain pain points that we come across. There are obviously high level of variance in terms of project cost. The another thing that's actually a very big problem that people working in design industry comes across is the loss of data, or the problems that they feel when they transition from conceptual design to the detailed design because of the data that they have been working on is in some other software, or they are bringing it as a drawing file and they want to make that into a design file. They want to transition all that data into something more useful. So to cover these thing elements, so these to actually mitigate these from these points or these pain points that we have in the industry, that's where OpenRail Designer can actually help you. To begin with, very first thing that we are using is the 3D design. So we are working in 2D, we have 3D parallel. All our different references can be brought in using, if we have a road model, we have a bridge model, all that data can be brought in and it can be utilized in a very effective and efficient manner. The next thing that generally we need to do is OHE design, right? So we have overhead electrification design, and finally the intelligent data that we can do for assets, right? So if we have a look at this particular graph over here, we will have a look identifying we have something on the red line that says current practice. And what happens in this case is that every time we are transitioning from one stage to another one, we are actually losing some sort of data and time to take our project from one state to another. And that's where we are trying to use better information management so that the data that we are using, it does not loses its value. It just keeps on adding the information that we want, whether it can be from planning to detail design and going forward. The next thing that we have, so a lot of people that have been using products like Bentley Rail Track and PROL. So we will be transitioning them across these two different products. for OpenRail Concept Station and the OpenRail Designer. So if we talk about Concept Station in a very small, in very brief manner, it's going to be Concept Station is a tool that can be helpful uh, for you to do the conceptual design. It is an excellent tool where all your efforts towards your conceptual design can bring in data from the cloud. It can help you to create the terrain, and then you don't lose that data. In fact, you can use that same data going forward to support your tenders, your information that you need at that point, and obviously to get a budget idea from that particular part. The next thing that we can have is OpenRail Designer. That's what we are trying to focus on today. And the data that we must have used or exported from Concept Station can be brought in directly into OpenRail Designer. Now, this is where the the alignment, the optioneering that you have done in case of your concept station can be actually used straight away. It does have similar family value in terms of being a Bentley product, and it does not loses its value something like just a straight line which is there in DWG, right? So if we have that, we can bring in information. And if let's say you have created custom templates, a typical cross section, if you have created in concept station, we can bring that as well. Going ahead, let's start with the OpenRail Designer. Now, this is what we have in terms of different workflows. So these different workflows actually helps us to manage our product and it allows us to control what type of tabs are we working on, what functionality we want to access. And if you have a look over here, it actually helps us to control what we are working on. So if you have a look, OpenRail modeling, that's where you will be spending most of your time doing the work. And then you have plan production. This is where you will do the drawing production. Then you have your survey. That's a particular workflow dedicated to bring in different types of survey that we can have. Then we have geotechnical data, geospatial context, uh, reality modeling. That's where you bring your point cloud, your LiDAR data. So you are able to control that and you are able to edit that. The the next one is drawing. Now that's where you get the power of the entire complete microstation tool over here embedded in your OpenRail Designer. And last and very important, that is the drainage and utilities. Now that's where a lot of people feel challenged in terms of bringing in their data, in terms of doing the drainage design, doing the utilities design, whether it's going to be electrical conduits, whether it's going to be your communication conduits and pits and all that data that needs to be provided along with your rail model. And that takes your rail design toward the next level. All right, then going ahead, that's the workflow we are looking at. It's quite a general workflow. We'll be using that same thing. Going ahead, there are certain formats that we can use to create terrain from, right? So there are different options that we can choose. So why I have brought in this element over here, so you can understand that the terrain or the mesh that we are going to create over here, the surface mesh that we are going to create, it's going to be the older file format, something like XYZ file, a text file, a CSV file, or something that most of the people use right now, that is a drawing file, DWG, which you get from your surveyor, having all your survey points and lines, all that information with different levels. And then something which is coming on the rise right now, that is from the photos or the drone imagery or LiDAR, which contains millions of points, very detailed, very dense data that you can process over here using OpenRoads Designer and OpenRail Designer. Now, coming to the next part, which is going to be more focused on Rail tools. So before we go on and try to understand all these different tools that we have in terms of Rail design, we have your CAN design and etc. So we are going to have a look about the product itself. So we are going back to the Open Rail Designer over here. So we are presently in the interface. So I have presently opened one of the files, right? So we can go back and click on File. Now that's what we call Backstage. And if you look, this is pretty similar to what we have in terms of Microsoft Word, right? Or Microsoft PowerPoint. So the interface that we come across over here in OpenRail has been so user friendly that you see that on day-to-day basis. And when you're trying to learn this product or you're trying to use it, it becomes so natural to you, right? So if for that instance, if I just come back to this MS PowerPoint, you see we have a similar format over here. So this data that we come across, this particular interface, has been optimized as per the MS Office. And from here, we can access the settings. We can go on and define certain design file settings. We have different elements to work on. We can go on and do that. Define what type of civil formatting do I need, especially for rail, whether what type of spiral settings do I need, whether it's going to be glothoid or it's going to be, we have different options. You see, we have NSW cubic parabola, we have WA cubic parabola. So we can just choose one and then go back. Like it depends upon what different elements or design file settings you want to make. You have all that options to optimize your color books, your color table, your line styles, and one important thing that people will do understand in terms of when they are working from, when they're transitioning from Power Rail track or Bentley Rail track to Open Rail is that you don't have to load your own preference file over here. So you don't have to sit and define all the preference files when you're working with Open Rail. If you have a specific requirement to do that for a project, one good thing is that I can do that same element in a seed file, define it as a template for my project, and I can use that multiple times going forward, right? So if you want to have the access at the view preferences, so that's where you can have a look in terms of view options, what type of what type of color prompts that you want to define, whether it's going to be for your manipulator, whether it's going to be for your survey, for your turnout profile, all those different elements that you want to control in a in a in our preference file that we load in case of PowerRail track can be seen over here, and we can optimize it according to our project, right? And if you don't want to do it, you can always go and use the default settings and make best use out of it. So you have the option to set back to defaults. I'm gonna can say cancel. So for now, we have come across all these different workflows. We have these different tabs over here on the top defined in a beautiful chronological manner you're going to work on. And from here, you can always access, you have these tabs to work on terrain. You have geometry, so you can access, there are general tools. You have horizontal, vertical, and then you have certain tools like common tools over here and regression as well, right? So that's something we will be looking at today. However, if I just don't look at this small part over here, I can go and select the much detailed regression analysis tool. Now the question is what we are going to do with that. Let's see that. But over here we have a rail tab. That's the entirety or the focus of the this OpenRail Designer that brings in all the features that you get with Open Roads Designer and MicroStation, right? So we have that. We can select these regression analysis tools over here. We have the tools to work on Kant over here. We have speed table and whatnot. Then next thing we have turnouts, miscellaneous and different parts. We'll be looking at them one by one. Then we have model detailing. Now that's where we have certain options to place civil cells. And another interesting element that we will talk about. Then we have drawing production. That's where we are going to come and produce final sheets. And we are going to have the options to create plan and profile sheets, the cross-section sheets, plan sheets, whatever combination that you would like. We can work on that over here. And then we have utilities to bring your item types. Now that's where we bring in the asset information, all that into attribution that you want to do for your project codes, what type of IFC you're going to be bringing in, or what type of IFC you're going to define. So all those elements are going to be defined using item types over here. So let's go back to the presentation, have a quick look about different tools that we have. So we'll start with one very important thing that you will be, that's going to be a very important element of the OpenRail designer. So now what's going to be regression analysis? So at this point, we have S- So what do we have in this particular case? We do have a new geometry that can be designed, right? So we have the option to create a new horizontal geometry straight from the geometry section or the geometry tab that we have in OpenRail. Now, the other thing that we will be coming across is going to be rehabilitation of the tracks, right? That's going to be one thing. So for that, when we collect the data from the surveyor and then we use it, so that's where the tool over here that's going to be regression analysis is going to be helpful. So we will be using this to rehabilitate our tracks, redesign those things, and get the best fit profile or the best fit horizontal geometry for us. So over here, these are quite different options that we have, and it as a designer working on the rehabilitation projects or new projects, that's going to be an excellent tool for you. So you have options to do horizontal and vertical. You have options to allow for a dynamic regression. And then you have the ability to place your spirals, your transitions automatically. So that's one of the best things that you can come across over here. Next thing that we have is going to be turnouts, another tool that's being provided by OpenRail Designer. Now, in this case, when we come across turnouts, we generally see that there is a library existing. So what do we have about it? So it's a very simplified turnout placement, and the tool is pretty simple. It allows you to select from an existing library. However, it is a particular tool that also allows you to create your own turnout. So for example, if you want to create a turnout specific to your project, let's take as an example, let's say you have an existing turnout that says 1 in 12. However, for your project, you need one that's supposed to be 1 in 10. So that's where this library is so customizable. I can go back to the seed file, or I can do it here in the same folder here, and I can just work it out, right? So I let's say I have to create something for Melbourne Metro, whether it's going to be WA Rail. So any particular product project that I'm going to be working across, if I have these 10 specifications clear to me that okay, this is the library that I would need. I can go in, I can create that, I can define, okay, this is going to be for standard gauge, it's going to be for broad gauge. You have that ability to work on that, right? And then finally, the geometry allows you to connect very simply with that. You are able to get so many reports out from this. So these are few ones that has been provided. So these are available German, UK, France, India. These are few available with you. Uh, for the audience which are based in India, for example, they will be looking at that OpenRail provides you with the library for Indian rail standards, especially the IRCTC. However, it does not takes in consideration for metros. For example, it can be your Delhi Metro or another suburban metros. So for that, again, you have that ability. You take that one in 8.5 and you can create or you can manipulate that to work on your own user defined turnouts. Finally, if you have an existing library from Power Rail Track or Bentley Rail Track product, so you can just try to bring that in over here as well. Going ahead, again, these are a few types of library that you can choose from. We will be having a look at that in the product itself. The next thing that we will be working on is going to be speed table, right? So we'll be looking at it. So if we have a look at this image right now, so we can identify, we have a list of different station readings, right? So we have the option to define the chainages, and then I can define that, okay, this is going to be three different speed tables I'm going to create, and I'm going to run the cant design calculation based on all three speeds. And I can identify what particular scan design is optimum for all three of these ones, right? So you can see we have express speed. I can define the speed over there. Similarly, I can define the speed for commuter or the passenger train. And then we have the freight speed, right? So we have these options. So these can be defined for different sections. Different speed transitions can be provided at the beginning of the stage chainage value, at the end of chainage value, what should be the speed transition that you want to provide the alternative speed options as we have seen. And finally, this will be helpful for us to run what? To run the Kant calculation over there. So for this one, we are going to use rule-based formula that we have available with us, right? So we can provide certain values over there. We can do the validation of the results. We can go back, have a look at the Kant diagram. And then from there, if we feel there are certain values to be changed, we can always go back and do that. Finally, coming to another part that's going to be modeling for the corridor. That's going to be an important part over here. And finally, we look at, so once we are done with the modeling part, we can always go on and bring rails and sleepers as a visualization tool before we bring this to the output. So we are quickly done with our presentation. Before we finally go ahead and have a look at the product and what we are going to do with it, I'm going to ask Gayatri to run a quick poll and then we will go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dhruv. I'm just done with my polling. We have only three. Yeah. If anyone wants to go for the training or the software purchase, you can visit our website. We have a contact us form there. You can just leave a message there. We'll get back to you with all the details required by you. So whether it is training, services, or the product sale or the software sale, you can visit our website, bimtechnologies.com.au. I think, Dhruv, we are done with the poll. So you can continue with your session. Dhruv?
Yes, thank you, Gayatri.
Yeah.
I hope my screen is still visible.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All
Yes.
right. Okay, so we are switching back to the software now. We are having a look at the OpenRail Designer. So before we go ahead, because we have had a look at the polls now, uh, some of you are somewhat familiar with the product, some of you are not familiar. So we'll go a little slow on this part, especially looking at the product. So to begin with, we are going to see the list of workflow. That's where we are. So we are presently in OpenRail modeling. So we are going to continue from there. And from here, I'm going to home and I'm going to select something called as references. Now that's where I have the option or the ability to select what different references or XREFs that I can bring here in OpenRail Designer. And that's where I can just select it and define what type of scale do I want for the reference, whether it's going to have the same annotation scale, different options to look at. So we'll be having a look at this. So let's start with defining the references that we have. So right now you can identify, it says that we have metric rail geometry. So we are presently in metric rail geometry.dgn. That's the file we are presently in. And from here, we are going to select that we should have a terrain file to look at so that we can identify how my present cross section looks like over here. My present profile looks like. So for this, right now it just says it's not available. I can reload this. I can go on and I can say attach. I need to define where this particular terrain sits. So here it is, metric terrain existing. I'm going to select that. For the attachment method, I'm going to say coincident world. That's where I want the origin of my present file, the working file, and the origin of the reference file should overlap. I'm going to say open to that. And with that, it just comes in with a reference. So what do we have over here? That's the terrain boundary we have got. And this is the geometry that I have created. So if you look at it, and before we look at it, let's do one thing. Let's go to drawing production. I'm going to say annotate element, and I'm just going to annotate this entire element to look at. So for now, once it is annotated, I can see that for the tangent part, for the straight section that of geometry that I have, it is being represented with the red line, red color. Then as it continues and it transitions from a tangent to the curve, there is a spiral that I have that is yellow. And then we have a saffron color defining the curve part over there. So what do we have? So we got all the different properties to be defined for the particular annotation that we needed. So we have got that. From here, we can look at different elements. What is the PI over there? What is the chainage that we have? And apart from this, if we want to have a look at the profile, so we have the option, we can go to geometry. We have horizontal tools, we have vertical ones as well. So we are going to look at open profile model. I can identify the plan element quite easily. I can select different viewports that I have over here. So from here, let's say I want to select view number 4. I can just bring it on one edge and I can select this. So if you look at this, the green line that we are coming across, the green lines, this dashed line that we see, that's how your existing terrain looks like. And the line that we have over here on the bottom, that's what defines the active profile or the profile that we have created for this horizontal geometry. So we will be using this horizontal geometry and profile to create the corridor. We will be looking at how different rail cross sections can be used. And if you also have a look over here, interestingly, you will find it's quite an undulation over there, or we can say it's a mountain that we are coming across. So we have a quite a high point, then this particular line passes through it. So that's where we are going to introduce what? That's where we are going to introduce a corridor, a tunnel corridor, in fact. So we'll be looking at a section on grade rail section. Then we will be looking at a tunnel cross section to be applied. And then at far last, it's going to be at grid or on grid rail section that we're going to look at. So we are good with it. We can go on, select it. We can make sure it's active. So it's the selected one that we are going to use. So once we are here, we can go back, select file, and I'm going to choose rail corridor. I've created another file. Now in this case, we will be using federated environment. So every process that we are going to work on, or the different data that we are going to work on, it's going to allow us to be done using different files. And each file that will be required, we can do it using the references. So I'm going to select rail corridor. That's the file I've created before we started with our webinar. We can go on, select and identify what references do we have. So to bring in the corridor that I have, to create the corridor, we need two things. I need the geometry on which it should be applied, and I do need the terrain. So why do I need a terrain? So that it can define whether it's going to be a cut section or it's going to be a fill section. That's what I'm going to do with this. references. So we have both of these available. I can just close this for now. And before I go ahead and start to work on it, I'm going to run first check that whether this terrain that I have, is it active or not. I can quickly do that. I can just select it. And then you have this cursor prompt over there. So this is the quick access toolbar, right? So I can just use it. It is context sensitive, so it's very sensitive when you bring your cursor over. So I can just select prop this option, set as active terrain model. I have selected it. I can zoom in over there, and I also have the ability to look at the 3D view. So I'm going, before I actually start creating a corridor over here, I'm going to see two views. On the left side, I'm going to have a 2D view. On the right side, I'm going to do a 3D view. Now the tool over here allows me to do that with the default settings that I have, right? So here you see, right now we can't see any triangulations. If we want, we can turn that on. All right, so we can have a look at that later. However, if you see, I can see the geometry over here, and it says default 3D. So if this line that we have for horizontal geometry, if that has an active profile, and that's the only reason we can see that in 3D, else it cannot be. So once we are here, we also have the options to choose from different elements to work on. Either it can be different line, horizontal tools to work from. It can be different vertical tools to choose from again. And then we have option to choose from different turnouts that we want to add. So for instance, you can see we have this ability. So to widen this up right now, we can see these comes up with a very good view defining what each of these icons define. So I'm going to select and do a right click on file. I'm going to turn off rail electrification. That's not required for now. Similarly, I'm going to turn off miscellaneous for now. And that gives me an option. Okay, place turnout, place crossing, extend turnout. We have add to profile turnout report. So we have multiple options to choose from. Let's look at the different libraries that we have available over here. So we have place turnout option, what hand it's going to be on the left, on the right, whether it's going to be orientation, it's going to be on the left or on the right, leading or trailing, right? And then from here, I can define further options. I can go on and define what type of turnout do I want. I can select it from the existing library, go on single. And from here, I'm going to take example of, so you can take either of these options. We have quite a list. So I'm going to take Indian broad gauge for example now. So here you see we have different options that we have Indian Railway Standards, broad gauge, and then you have your 60 kg 1 in 12G. So that's one of the options that you have. You can choose from. You can define what name do you want to define for this specific turnout. And from here, I can go on and define, select the uh, center line. So here I can define what should be the toe point or the what should be the stationing value that you want to provide. So here I can define it over there. Whether it's going to be orientation, it's going to be leading or trailing. You see, it's going to define all those parameters all together. So we can define it, and then from once it's done, I can extend it. I can provide another offset line, offset rail line to work on. So once we are here, we have got this, right? So if you see, if you look at over here in the 3D view, you don't see this exact turnout being existing over there. Now, why do we are not able to see that? Is that we have not created a profile for that, right? So anything that we want to work on further, we need a profile. So for now, considering the time that we have, I'm not going to create a profile. However, we are going to run the entire corridor on this one, have a look at how different cross sections work. So for this one, we are going back to corridors tab over there. You see, we have quite a list again. We have options to create. We have options to edit. We have certain miscellaneous. These are again part of edit as well. We have road. These are especially the road super elevation. As I said, OpenRail is a bigger superset that contains open roads as well as micro station. And then you have certain review options. So for now, we are going to select the option of creating what? We are going to create a corridor. So we are going to take that. And before we actually go on and select the corridor, the first thing that I'm going to do is to identify what are the different options or what are the different cross sections that we have existing in the OpenRail Designer. And if you want to create a project specific one, how you're going to do that. So we are going to quickly have a look at template. We can go on to create template over there. And we come across another element over there. This is what a library, a template library, and this is quite dynamic in terms of how you can operate on it, how you can edit it, and how you can export and work on it. So for instance, you have multiple people working on a project. So you, rather than one person creating it and setting it, sharing it across the project, there can be different people working on projects for rail, for road, right? So they can make their own individual cross sections, typical cross sections, and then bring it over here in OpenRail Designer, right? So that's the options that you have. So we are here in templates. So we have individual parts that you can work on. And here you can identify, we have options rail. We can select such as we have just a single component. So let's say we just want to have a look at single rail or something, we can do that as well. So for here, we can select, it's going to be, for instance, if you want to have a look at single track blasted track, typical cross section, you can see it over there. You have your center point, you have your rail can point. So there are certain points that are defined in the default library that you get with the product with the OpenRail Designer. And you also have the ability to edit it to or to create your own library for your project. So you have all these different options. You can control that. You have concrete sleeper option. Then you have another one where you can add another siding to the left or siding to the right. So you have different options to look at. Also, if we go on, we can have some options for tunnels and different things that we can look at. So here you see we have single track platform edge, we have single track tunnel. So you can have a look at this. So it contains all the points in your existing library. So let's go on. We can just close it for now. Go on to select new corridor. That's where we are going to define that, okay, that's my horizontal, that's my vertical, and I want a proper cross section to be applied on this line or this geometry. That's what we call a corridor. So I'm going to select that. So it is asking for a baseline. I'm going to quickly do that. It asked me for a profile to be defined, that it's going to be what type of L section or profile it's going to follow. So I'm going to say reset, that means right click. So I'm going to do a right click, going to call track main. So just give it a that. And from here you can identify, it just developed across, it developed the envelope along the entire geometry that we have. Now that's where we are going to define what type of typical cross section is going to be applied or what type of template is going to be applied over here. So for this, we can go on and we are going to choose from single track sleepers. Let's say take that one. So we are going to select from here template. We are going to expand this templates. We are here in Rail, and where we have single multiple options. We can either go for this one. We can select this. Let's take concrete sleepers, for example. Do a left click. Now it is asking me to define a start point and an end point. So I can say, I want this to be done locked to the start. So it takes that value. Then it is asking me to define the end point. So I can just say lock to the end. And for the drop interval, that's where the cross section is going to be applied at a particular continuous interval. So let's say if I say 5 meter, it's going to be applied at consecutive 5 meter, and then it extrudes in between. So we are going to say 5, do a left click, and it should start to process. So once it processes, you can have a look. Let's have a look here in 3D. So what do we get over here? So you see we have this entire section being defined. So that's the center line that I have. And then what's next? We have this, if you zoom in, so it should provide me an idea about the concrete one. So you see concrete sleeper that we have, then that's the ballast layers and then the base layers. And on the edge, what do we have over here? That's what we have in terms of end conditions or the embankment for this entire T of rail corridor that we have created. Now, if we go on and we look at another part over here, so you see, if you remember in the profile view that we had, we also had a look that, okay, it's going to have quite a particular mountain that's coming across. And you see it's coming right now as what? It's coming as a cut section through the entire mountain, right? That's not practically possible, right? So what we are, if even if we have here a look over here in 2D, we can identify the same thing. So what we want to do at this given point is to provide another section that will help us to do what? That will help us to work on the tunnel section. So we are going to use that one. So once we are done with that, so let's go on. So for this one, what's next to be provided? So we are going to start with providing a new template drop. So we are going to define that. So for this one, we are going to select single new template drop, provide selected, and it's going to ask us for the corridors. That's the corridor I'm going to work on. Once we have selected it, we can define what section do I need. I can go back to the library that I've come across, expand tunnels, and from here we can select individually. It's going to be single track tunnel, right? And then we have single track tunnel with rails. We can select this one and I can just go on select OK. Here I need to define my start point. So for that one, I can say, do a left click somewhere here. So let's say I need start point to be approximately, let's say 4,000. So I can just say that's going to be my start location. Once I've defined it, I need to define the end point. So for that, let's go on and be on the other side of tunnel. So we can come across and do, let's say 8,300. That's the station values that I've given. I can do a left click for the drop interval. Let's say I want this to be more accurate. I can say 3 meters. So if you lower the drop interval, that will increase the accuracy over there. Do a left click and it should start to process. And within seconds, what do you get? You get the entire cut section has now been replaced with a tunnel section. So if you zoom in, you identify that's how your tunnel looks like. So we can have a look over there. And that's what we got. So this is something where we utilize the power of different templates and the ability to use existing ones and even create our own. So if we want a double tunnel, like with two different rails going parallelly, we can do that. We can go back to the template library and we can create that. And at the same time, if you want to identify different things about how to apply Kent, about providing a Kent, having a more control. So if you see, we have a certain overlap missing over here. So we can utilize what we can either go back to the turn template library, edit it over there so that it has the same point of meeting. Or what I can do is I can use tools over here. So if you come across an edit option, we have edits, we have options like point control, where we can move a certain point at specific station values. We have options to provide parametric values to be changed as per our instruction, and we can go ahead from there. So once we are done with this, we can always go and see how we want to review our cross sections. We can go and see dynamic sections. That's one of the reviewing option that we have, open cross section view. I need to define the corridor that I want to work on. I can just select this one. So that's the corridor I want to select. So it says select or open view. So over here on the bottom, we can see we have 8 number of views. We are presently using 1 and 2. I'm going to say, let's say view number 5, and from here I can access it. So what do we have over here? We have, this is dynamic cross section view. That's where you can identify where I'm I looking at. So once you apply Kent, obviously this will behave differently. You will see Kent being applied over there. So for now, let's say if you want to have a look at, so I can go on, select, let's say I want to have, specific station data point. So I can say it's going to be plan view, bring it somewhere here, and here you see. So that's where it starts to have, this is where we have the this is where we have a particular tunnel section, and from there we can go next, and then you can identify it transitioning to the the cut section that was what's there. Now, it's not something that you have done once in terms of editing your corridor. It's quite dynamic. I can go on, I can grab it from here. I can say that, okay, I don't want it to be 8300. I want to be something else. I can move it, and the entire corridor processes itself that way. So the next one moved accordingly. And finally, once we are done, once we are done with the entire rail section is ready, obviously we can go on and use these tools to create different text values that we want, and finally create the drawing production. That's for plan and profile sheets, your cross-section sheets and whatnot. So this was a quick glimpse about the OpenRail Designer. So we have come across different tools, we have come across different features of the product. So in another 5 minutes, we can quickly have a look at different, if you have any questions, and then we're good to wrap up our session for today. Over to you, Gayatri. If you have any questions, please read them out to me. Gayatri, your voice is not very clear. Can you?
Am I audible?
Yes, now it's better now.
Okay. I don't see any messages in the chat. Thank you for your time, Dhruv. So anyone have any query, please, you can leave a message in the chat. I can read out. Does anyone have any query, please, for any doubt or anyone want to discuss anything? Okay, Dhruv, we don't have any queries as such. I think we can wind up the webinar for today's. Thank you everyone for registering for this webinar, and if at all you have any query regarding the training or the services or the software sales, you can visit our website bimtechnologies.com.au. You can send us an inquiry. In that we can revert back with all the information which is required from your side to us. Thank you, Dhruv.
Thank you,
so much.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time. Thank you.